After many requests a while back, I shared how I sharpen. And that method was these 3 diamond stones and my Veritas Mark II sharpening guide. These are the Easy Lap diamond stones. They range from 250 grit, 600 grit and 1200 grit. These were the recommendations that Paul Sellers was making, or still makes. And diamond stones have the appeal that they don't need to be soaked, they don't need to be flattened. They just sort of work forever and fast cutting and all of that. And I found nothing about that was true, really. They're expensive. I think only the 250 grit is actually flat and the other 2 have caused me issues. So I'm putting them aside for now. And I found that they just simply weren't fast. They were very slow to cut, and 1200 grit is not a fine enough surface, for me at least, to have a sharp edge to get good results. Now I don't know whether that's because of the materials that I use, how good, bad, or otherwise a job I do in sharpening, or what my expectations, maybe I've got my expectations set too high. Regardless, I'm migrating away from diamond stones and moving on to water stones. Now this is a kit that I picked up from Japanese Tools Australia. That's their logo. It consists of this Serax, new Serax water stone. So this is a combo stone. It's 1000 and 6000 grit. The 1000's the blue, 6000's the white. It comes in this nice little holder here with protective case. A piece of glass with PSA backed sandpaper and 2 sheets of the PSA backed sandpaper. Now this this plate glass is for flattening the water stone. The plate glass is our reference surface and the PSA backed sandpaper is what does the actual flattening. It comes in 2 grits, one is 320 and one is 240. I've used this for a little bit now and I'm really loving the results. For one, 6000 grit is much higher than 1200 grit, so it produces a much more polished bevel and I find produces much better results. The plane shavings are finer, not that that matters, but the surface left behind is smoother. It cuts through the wood quicker, and when using a chisel to pare, it leaves really like a burnished surface on end grain, which is lovely. I also find that the water stones are much quicker to sharpen. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at this kit. I'm going to get a towel down on my workbench because probably the one big downside to diamond stones isn't the soaking time, but it's how messy it is. As I mentioned, this is a new Serax water stone. There is some distinction between the new and old style. The new ones come with this container with the rubber feet on it, and the holes in the sort of holder here are so that the water dribbles off, not onto the other stone, so that you're not contaminating it or something like that. Picked up this small plastic container from Kmart. It was a couple of dollars. Probably should have got the size up so I could put the whole thing in, but no big deal. I'm going to put a little bit more water in there. Alright, so that's submerged. It's recommended for the Serax stones not to leave it submerged, otherwise it can, I don't know, damage the grit or something. If we look at the rest of the kit, I've got that piece of float glass. We've got 240 grit on one side and 320 is to go on the other. It's quite easy to do, you just sort of flip it up like that. As I keep mentioning, this is PSA sandpaper, which is pressure sensitive adhesive, which is preferable for flattening over, say, spray adhesive or some sort of contact adhesive. The spray adhesive, particularly on glass, has a tendency to ball up, and those balls underneath the sandpaper can cause it to suddenly not be flat anymore. So as I mentioned, one of the advantages of diamond stones is that you don't need to flatten them. So one of the disadvantages of water stones is that you do. So I'm going to make a habit of flattening these stones before every sharpening session, and then more times if I need it, if I'm doing a lot of things. You can see quite a lot of that grey gunk, and that's the steel being removed, so it's cutting very fast, while the diamond stones were grey, so it was a little bit harder to see. There was never that much material removed that quickly. And man, that is making such a difference that those milling marks are almost gone. And when you consider that I've sharpened this 2 or 3 times already on the diamond stones and it barely touched it, that's just frustrating. Getting a burr quite quickly already. And again, this is the frustrating thing with the diamond stones, that to get that level of burr would take me 5 minutes. This has taken maybe 20 strokes and I've got a burr on it already. So I've spent all this time in the past working with crappy stones and just not realised it. So it's not quite all the way along. It sort of just goes to this point here and stops. So I'll keep working on this. Just that one corner that looks to be a little bit damaged. So I'm going to turn the camera off, get that bevel down, and then when I'm ready to go to the 6,000 grit, I'll flip the camera back on. So though I haven't got the absolute perfect bevel, it's still a little bit off to one side, but it's still razor sharp. It's able to shave my arm with no problem whatsoever. And that's without stropping. So the 6,000 grit is probably all I need. I'm not a massive hand tool user, so I could probably get away with leaving it at 6,000. One thing I failed to mention, that this kit also comes with a bottle of camellia oil. I'm not going to open this as I've already got a bottle, and just a couple of drops of this on a little rag is how you can prevent rust on any of your tools, cast iron tools, etc. Just rub this on after use. So this kit is quite interesting. If you've got a grinder, you probably don't need to go any lower than 1,000 grit. If you've got major damage on your chisels, you're probably going to go straight to the grinder, get rid of that, then go straight to the 1,000 grit stone, then 6,000. It comes with what you need to flatten the stones. It comes with a holder for the stones. The only thing's really missing is probably a little plastic tub to soak it in. Just go to Kmart. I spent $3. I could have got a larger tub for $2, but that one was a better size for storing in this workshop. A guide, if you need a guide. You can get a variety of different guides online, or you can learn to freehand sharpen. I'm not going to, because I've got a guide. Now, I don't care whether you get this kit or not. I quite like the Cerax stone. It's meant to be a little bit harder wearing than the King combo stone for not a lot more in Australia. I've got no financial stake in this. I paid for all of this myself, so I'm not doing, this isn't a sponsored video. However, should you want a 10% discount, I've got a code that'll be on screen and below that's valid until the end of the month. I purchased it, then got a coupon, good timing, and then clarified with Japanese Tools Australia that they're happy for anybody to use that code. So this is my current stage of sharpening. Is it my final one? I don't know. I will probably look at some intermediate grits, maybe like a 3,000 grit in the future, maybe a Shapton ceramic stone, as they are even harder wearing. I won't continue to sharpen on my workbench like this. It's because I've still got to flatten it, so I'll be sanding it back regardless. I will most likely make a little tray trough thing that sits in the sink so that I can sharpen with all the gunk just falling straight down into the sink. Maybe even a little box like Fine Woodworking have for their, I think they call it the Sharpen and Go kit. Anyway, this is what I'm now sharpening with. I'm getting razor sharp edges, and at least on Australian hardwoods it makes a massive difference. I'm probably sharpening wrong because I'm still new to Waterstone, so be gentle in the comments, and thank you for watching.